I want to be a millionaire by this age. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, I think I can actually do it by this age. And then, oh, I did it, well before I'm 30. And I didn't even know that was possible. When I started doing this, at that time, I only had 2 children. My wife and I now are expecting our 5th child soon.
You're putting up babies as quick as you are flips.
I'm pretty contrarian in this entrepreneurial space that, I don't set goals. I don't track KPIs. I don't like the idea of, hey, we have to 10X everything all the time.
If only we had known at 20 the power of real estate. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, Gathering the Kings podcast, coming back to you here today. My brother, another king on the stage, a real estate king, Jason Velie. How we doing?
Hey, man, doing great. Happy to be here. How are you?
It's Thursday. How could I not be happy? How could I not be ready to roll, right?
Yes, sir.
We are here to chat about a really cool story that you've got. And I loved how you actually used it. We were just offline here, and you said it's come full circle. And so I really want to get to some of the details of how your story has come full circle. But before we do that, Jason, tell us what kind of business that you got.
Yeah, so I have a house flipping business and a apartment rental portfolio.
And you've been doing this for what, 25, 30 years, 50 years? Like, how long have you been in this game?
Well, given that I'm only 30 myself, that might be impossible. So, no, I started just over 4 years ago now.
I want to hit this home as my very first point. I usually ask about your why, and I will get to that. So don't think you're off the hook here, but I want to know, bro, 4.5 years, and not only have you just done some flips and purchased a couple properties, but you've done very well, made great money, like more than the average person by a long shot, and you've got a great apartment little build up coming. So 4.5 years, that's really fast, in essence, is what I'm trying to say. But you're kind of presenting as I'm just here. I'm no different than anybody else. What happened in the last 4 years, bro? Give me the 2-second version.
Absolutely. No, so my plan originally was I'm going to keep working my day job in finance, and I'm going to slowly save up a little money and buy one rental property the traditional way and the get rich slow way. And maybe when I'm retired, I'll have 20 or 30 paid off rentals and I'll be wealthy in retirement. But then a friend of a friend introduced me to a house flipper who introduced me to the BiggerPockets real estate podcast. And then that's when I learned about things that we can get further into if you want, like private money lenders and hard money lenders. And that's when a light bulb just clicked. And I was like, wait a minute, I have no money, but you're telling me that as long as I can find good enough deals, somebody will give me all the money to be able to buy it and renovate it and then resell it and make a lot of money using other people's money. I was like, okay, I could understand from the financial side why that would make sense and how their loan was collateralized by the property and all that. So I was just crazy enough to believe it. And so then I did my first flip, and that was proof of concept for me and just kept going from there.
Yeah. Well, so I know a little bit of detail about this first flip of yours. Your first flip went entirely different than my first flip. You made 30 grand. I lost 30 grand. But we both kept flipping, Am I just the crazy one of us two, I guess, then? Maybe because I did not have proof of concept.
No, I'll tell you, I had a very similar story that my first, right before I bought that first flip was the month before is when I bought my first rental. And my first rental was a terrible deal that I didn't know what I was doing. I had a horrible home inspector that missed everything. I had a contractor rip me off for $16,000, and I ended up having to, it was only like a $60,000 property. So the PITI payment was $350 a month, which I knew going into it, worst case scenario, if I had to, I could float that. Right. And I had to float that, vacant house for 2 years before I had money to renovate it and resell and basically break even after 2 years, only because it appreciated 30 or 40 grand in that time. So I understand. I just was very fortunate that I happened to come across my first flip so quickly before I found out how bad of a deal I had really bought on that first rental. So for me, it was a good thing that happened, or else I may not have continued on after that first property that I bought.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think, I had that first one took us so long to finish. But by the time I realized I lost so much money, I was already 6 flips in, you know,
Wow.
or maybe even more than that. Maybe it was more like 10. I don't know. But luckily we made some money on some other ones and it kind of, covered up the mess. But holy moly. You went fast, bro. What you're saying is that you thought you were just going to dabble in real estate, but what I'm hearing you say is that you left your job. You didn't say that, but I'm hearing maybe you left your job, you do it full time, and you're crushing it. What was the like pendulum swing there for you mentally, and also like physically? What happened during that time frame?
Yeah. So I've always loved the way that money works. Like I was the kid in elementary school that I would buy a box of Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes for 99 cents and then sell them for $1 a piece and profit $4. And I would make 250 bucks a week in, elementary school.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I've always loved how money works, but I also knew that I am not the type of entrepreneur that loves the idea of a gigantic business with a ton of employees and a bunch of overhead, because that to me just equates to stress, and that just wasn't what I was personally after. And really, after that first flip, I thought, okay, maybe I'll do one or two of these a year here and there to supplement the day job income. And then I start looking for more. And truth be told, it was a very long time between when I got that first flip finished and when I found my second flip. It took an incredibly long time. So even though my growth, total in the span of the 4 years or so looks very quick, truth be told, it's even faster than that, because almost all of that growth really happened within the last 2 years.
Wow.
It was really more of that kind of hockey stick growth curve thing, that it started out really, really slowly. And then as I did one or two more flips, after I got past about the fourth one, then I had more credibility locally. Then I was figuring out my marketing methods, how to find these good off-market deals myself. I had more credibility with local wholesalers, which, for anyone listening doesn't know what a wholesaler is, they find great off-market deals, get the property under contract, and then assign that contract to somebody like myself for an assignment fee, basically a finder's fee, and that's how they make money. So, yeah, it started out kind of slow, and then as I started to do a couple more flips and getting a little bit more volume, that's when I started to realize what was possible. And all of my ideas of, oh, I want to be a millionaire by, this age. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, I think I can actually do it by this age. And then, oh, actually, I did it, well before I'm 30, and I didn't even know that was possible. So
Yeah.
also when you talk about goal setting, that's another area that I struggle to even set goals with, because I don't even know what's possible, truthfully. So yeah, I would say, and forgive me if I'm rambling, I just get excited and love this stuff. But when I started doing this, at that time I only had 2 children. My wife and I now are expecting our 5th child soon.
You're putting
So
up babies as quick as you are flips.
exactly. So I had a responsibility, and the more kids we had, the less my wife worked, who was a dental hygienist. So my income was slowly increasing at the day job, but only enough to continue to cover our bills, not enough to really do much more than that. So my whole goal was, let me continue to flip single family houses to drum up capital quickly, and then take that capital and use it as down payments on the multifamily rentals until we had a big enough rental portfolio that the pure net passive rental income, with property managers handling that side of it, until that net amount was enough to be able to cover all of our living expenses, so that if by happenstance there was a huge market collapse and I wasn't able to flip any houses for 2 or 3 years, neither one of us would have to go back and get another day job. We'd be safe. And so that's exactly what I did. I got to the point to where we worked up to 60 rentals and, apartments over 4 different properties. And 2 of those I own myself. 2 of those I've got a partial partner in. And so by weighted ownership, I own 45 of those 60, and that's over 10 grand a month in net passive income, which is more than enough to cover the bills. And
And you're free.
that's when I felt comfortable to cut the cord on the day job. And I could have done it way sooner and had way faster growth for sure, but
Right.
that wasn't my risk profile at the moment. And so I am happy to say that in April of 2023, I quit after about 3.5 years, quit my day job and have been full time since, and just having the time of my life.
Yeah, I love it, man. You can see how it lights you up. I know you kind of apologize there, but that's why we have you here on the show, is to be able to talk about that passion and kind of the nitty gritty that led up to that. You've done what seemingly everybody talks about on TikTok. It's like, go do something, sales, a job, flip houses, some sort of active income, make money. Don't be dumb and spend it.
Right.
You were living on your, little bit of income plus your wife. Okay, great. And you took all of that from the flips and put it into larger pieces of real estate as a long-term hold that was more built for rather than active income, passive income. And you have a portfolio now that pays you no matter what. And I
Yep.
loved how right in there I slipped, you're free, and you're like, yeah. And it's like, man, I don't think people realize that power of whatever that nut is. And I actually love, the Gary V's, the Brandon Turners of the world, who talk about freedom being not necessarily being a millionaire or whatever. It's whatever that dollar amount is that you like to live life at, have that covered by passive income. Like if that's 2,000, if that's 10,000, whatever the number is, you can do that with real estate, and it's really easy. Now, what it takes though is a period of time. For you is 3.5 years of focused effort, earning money, and then being diligent about how you were investing it so that it could allow future decisions. So most people get lost in that, whether it's 3 years or whether it's 30 years. Talk to us about what you had in that phase. Like, I mean, it's discipline, but like the knowledge to go, okay, I'm going to work, earn, save, invest, then spend money. How did you learn that? What can you give to the listeners right now if they're like, man, that sounds awesome, but like, I don't know. Can I really do that?
I do have a little bit of a background in finance. I went to school for finance, and I was a licensed financial advisor for a short time, and then moved on to work with institutional trust funds. So numbers is my jam, and to me, one of the not only was I after that freedom, that financial independence, but also I didn't want to have to pay a whole lot of taxes, because what we all say is it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. And why that's relevant in this case is because when you can buy expensive properties like apartment complexes, you can do cost segregation studies and take bonus depreciation and take an absurd amount of depreciation to show losses that if you're full-time real estate, you can then use to offset even your active house flipping income or even your spouse's W-2 income. So you can make 7 figures net and pay 0 taxes, all legally and ethically, because of what the IRS code incentivizes. So between the tax benefits and more so the just wanting to reach financial independence, that's what was in my head. I don't like to be controlled. I don't like to, my wife is one that she likes so much structure. She loves scheduling everything to the second, loves calendars. I am the exact opposite. I hate that. I don't want a certain schedule. That's why I'm pretty contrarian in this entrepreneurial space, that I don't set goals. I don't track KPIs. I don't like the idea of, hey, we have to 10x everything all the time. If that's what you want to do and you got the stress capacity for it, then great, that's awesome. But if that's not your goal, if you love what you do, yes, if I had employees, I would want to set KPIs to hold them accountable to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. But for myself, I love what I'm doing so much that I don't need accountability at this stage to go and do the work because I just truly love it. And if I got to the point where I needed to do it and I didn't love it, then yeah, maybe I'd need a little accountability. But if I were to put that pressure on myself for somebody like me that likes that freedom and that fluidity, it would feel like a job or it would feel like homework. And it would, at least I'm assuming, it could harm that fun relationship that I have with my business right now. And I don't ever want to lose that.
Yeah, there's freedom. The word freedom just keeps coming to my mind. Not just financial freedom like you're talking about, but freedom to just really have joy in what you're doing. And what's that cliche statement? If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, or something like that. It's like, it's
Yeah.
cliche for a reason, number one, and it's true. I think that actually, on the contrary to your contrarian comments, you do have goals, but your goals are freedom, and it's just a little bit more loose. It's not a certain dollar number. Well, it was actually. I guess maybe it was a certain dollar number to get, passive income to where you felt okay, and then now it's like, okay, things are good. And you're smart enough now. What I'm hearing you say is to recognize that you can't sit on your laurels and just chill, but that that you got to keep growing, because if kind of just the law of nature is if you're either growing or dying. But you want to love the growth, not be pressured into the growth, is what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly.
I love the other outlook on that. What would you give to the listener who is like you, who a lot of entrepreneurs are like you, let's be honest. And there's kind of two schools of thought, and I think both are fine. On the other side of that, I'm extremely disciplined. I love discipline, probably a lot like your wife. Like goals and setting targets and calendars, and like there's 7 steps to everything. And I'm like, yes. And if I don't hit and I got to hit them in a row, because it just feels so good.
I could tell by how many calendar reminders I got about this podcast.
Hey, I got to make sure you're here, man. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I had a
Yes,
guy, this is
sir.
probably like a year and a half ago. He was like, man, I would have thought I was meeting the president. I was like, well, I do value my time like I'm the president. So,
Yes, sir.
all that to say, there's somebody listening right now, probably most, who are like you. They love the freedom of like, don't put me in a box and just let me do my thing. What's the balance between like, okay, maybe you haven't set targets or not putting pressure, but you did have to set some direction. You're not just like, maybe I'll call some people today, maybe I won't. Like, I think there's probably a little bit more direction than you're leaning onto, but I love the fluidity. So talk to that guy who's like you, that's kind of stuck between that balance right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I love that you said direction, because I think that is a much more applicable term than goal, because when I think of goal, I think of a deadline. And deadlines are what I don't love. And I was always a procrastinator, in school and everything else. But I would just say it, have that general goal or direction without putting a set deadline on yourself. If you don't function well under that type. Now, I've got to be honest, I feel like it was really easy for me because I truly loved it. If I were trying to reach financial independence doing something that I didn't love, then yeah, I probably would have had to force myself to do certain tasks every day and schedule it and
Right.
and grind and maybe be a little unhappy for a little while. But for me, loving what I was doing, it was really like and I think maybe it's even a little bit primal, like the thrill of the hunt, that I would go out looking for things. And I was also blessed that I had a W-2 at the time that was very flexible. So I had streamlined everything I could at the day job and passed off the daily tasks to the newer folks to where I was salaried for, 48 hours. But on average, I only actually worked, 8 to 12 hours a week. So I had my normal day job hours that I was using a lot of to grow the real estate business. So I would say, find time where you can, whether you're fortunate to have a position that I had like that, or if you have to grind it out in the evenings or the weekends, or especially if you're single or not married and you've got all the time in the world, now's the time to do it because you're not going to want it. Well, you may want to do it, but your wife is not going to want you to do it in the evenings and weekends. I can promise you.
Uh-huh.
So just figure out what you need to do to achieve the goal where you want to get. But maybe if it's not a good fit for you, don't put a certain expectation or deadline on it, because you can't be disappointed if there's no expectation.
Yeah, there's that is a that is one school of thought, and I love the ability that I can host someone like you that has just such a different way of thinking about it than I do. This actually it's a principle that I follow. It's the mastermind principle that Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich, and it's the agitation of thought, and that's what's literally happening right now. Is that Jason and I, from a process perspective, couldn't be the more opposite. But both of us are financially independent. We both have real estate. We've both done other things. Actually, you want to know one other cool thing? Both of our wives are dental hygienists, or used to be. Rather.
Oh, nice.
But my point here is that,
That's
look,
cool.
man, there's multiple ways.
Yep.
I had a guy on the show that was like, the age of the guru is dying, and the guru means this is the way I did it. This is the way you should do it. Here are the 7 steps. And what I loved about that piece is going away and dying, is that guys like you and me right now can just go, hey, here's how I did it. Here's how Jason did it. Do what works for you.
Yep. Exactly.
Which is kind of leans into the freedom that we both believe in, which every entrepreneur, I mean, if you are even thinking about selling Debbie cakes or real estate or whatever, it's about freedom. It's about choice. Okay, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's go down low a little bit, close to the ground. And I want to know of a just really bad decision that you made. You had hockey stick growth, so a lot of success, but I'm sure there's been some sticky moments. Tell us about something practical that you did that you wish you hadn't have done, but that you learned a bunch.
Absolutely. The biggest, easiest example is that very first property that I bought. I went into it without the experience, and I didn't know enough at the time to, if I were going back now doing that, I would have gotten with a experienced investor and brought them with me to help me walk through it. And the numbers looked great on paper. I had that finance background, but I didn't have any construction background. And there was so much in that property that was wrong that, the kitchen cabinets looked great on the outside. I didn't think to open the kitchen cabinets. Yeah. They were disgusting, moldy, rotting. The roof needed to be replaced, and the seller, told me that it was newer, and there were termites eating up the floor joists in the house. And I thought I was being safe covering that knowledge gap by hiring a home inspector, but that's another big mistake that I made, is I went with the cut rate, cheapest home inspector I could find, who only charges a flat fee of $300 per house, no matter how big the house is. And he missed all of those things as well. He found almost nothing on this house that was not even inhabitable. And so I guess being cheap was a big issue, and not having knowledge on how to look at a property, and also being too trusting with that first contractor that I tried, because that contractor was a referral from a different contractor who had worked with him before, who I knew was a good, reputable, trustworthy guy. And so I thought, if I'm getting this referral from this guy, surely he's got to be somebody I can count on. That was not the case, So when you're first starting anything, go and find a mentor, somebody that is specifically experienced in your industry, and ask for their help. If you've got to provide value first, then do that. If you've got to find them a deal or bring them something, or if you've got to, if you tell them, hey, will you come look at this property with me? But, if it's a good deal and I decide not to buy it, then I'll assign it to you for free. I won't charge you an assignment fee or something like that if you have to. Some people will just be willing to help you with no expectation of anything in return anyway.
Right.
Some people won't, but regardless, whatever you have to do, go find that help from somebody with experience to save you all of that unnecessary headache on the front end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the principle that you're talking about, I mean, I think everybody knows, like they've heard. If they're listening to this show, they've probably heard get a mentor. But the ask, the way that you just broke down how to ask, AKA add value. Don't be a guy that just asks for help. That's good. It's okay to ask for help. That's not what I'm saying. But what Jason has just given you guys is the ability to ask through adding value. And actually, I just did it yesterday on the show with Brad. I interviewed Brad Lee yesterday. You were asking me about it a few minutes ago. And so first off, I already knew because I asked his staff what his favorite steakhouse was. And so I brought it up at the beginning of the show, got his interest around his favorite shop. And then at the end, I was like, hey, man, we're going to be in your town. He lives in 2 towns, but I'm like, hey, we're going to be in one of your towns, the whole mastermind. And I'd love for you to come have dinner with us at that place that you just said that you love. He was like, oh, man, you buying dinner? And so like he was, I mean, maybe he'll be able to come, hopefully. But it was like, but immediately I was followed it with, hey, look, like, I don't want it to be just coming to dinner. Of course, I pay for it. But like, I know you probably have like a per hour rate. I'm happy to pay it. Like, you just lead with, I'm not trying to get anything other than I am, but I'm trying to give first. Like, so give,
Right.
and it's okay to ask, but make sure it's led with maybe even a couple of gives. You gave a couple examples there of give. And, if you list a couple of influencers, and in my head, I can hear them going, give, then ask,
Right.
give a whole lot more is the
Absolutely.
point, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, okay, so let's flip the coin here. Let's talk about a good decision that you've made. And again, I loved how you broke down the principle. I mean, because we've got guys that aren't in real estate listening. And so I want to know of a principle that you've followed maybe, or a good decision that you made that helped you win in real estate, but really it was like kind of, superseding just the industry. What was that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the obvious answers is just doing good ethical business. There's a lot of there is opportunity. I think people think that it happens a lot more than it actually does, but there is opportunity to take advantage of people in any industry, and real estate's no different.
Oh yeah.
And you do have the occasion where an investor or a wholesaler goes into, 89-year-old great grandma and lies to her about what her house is worth,
Yeah.
and, gets her to give up an unreasonable amount of equity just because they lied.
Yeah.
And I don't ever do that. Just the other day I got a property under contract where I told the lady, she was 68 years old and her husband was with her, and she just inherited this house. And I told her, I said, look, I think your house, if you put a little money into it, is worth about $230. If you sell it exactly the way that it is, because it's currently financeable, sell it on the market with the realtor, you could probably get at least $190 for it. I can only offer you the way that it is $140. I said, so even after paying realtor commissions and all that other stuff, if you just list it as it is, doing no work to it, you're probably going to walk away with $30,000 to $40,000 net more than what you will by going with me. But on the flip side, if you don't want the headache of dealing with realtors and showings and home inspections and renegotiations and taking more time and headache, then I'll be your easiest guaranteed option, no doubt. It's just up to you which is more important, your time and your sanity, or more money. And everybody has a different answer and different reasons why one takes priority of the other. And sure enough, she ended up saying, yeah, I don't want to deal with all that other stuff. I'd rather just sell it to you at the 140 and move on.
Yep.
And I got it under contract. And people that aren't in this space, that don't do a whole lot of business, are shocked by stories like that. And I'm just like, well, what do you expect? Do you think I'm just out here lying to people and stealing money? Like, no, I am providing easy solution for people. It's, I heard an analogy the other day of, I'm the equivalent in the real estate space of the car dealership. If you take your car to a car dealership to sell it, you're going to get hit on the price pretty hard. You're going to have to take a cut, but they're going to be the easiest solution ever to get it sold, do the paperwork, stress-free. But don't most cars get sold back to dealerships?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You've got to look at those options. So, but yeah, to answer your questions, I say, ethic business, but also generosity. I live by, I'm a man of faith, and one of my favorite verses of the Bible is 2 Corinthians 9:11, and it says something to the extent of, you will be enriched so that you can be generous on every occasion, so that your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. And I try every day to get closer and closer to that, to where I can be generous on every occasion. And I'm not there yet, but I'm constantly reminding myself and asking myself, like, hey, were you generous on every occasion today? Did you give money to every homeless guy on the side of the road that you stopped by? Did you tip your waitress extra every time you ate, this week? Like, no, maybe I just did normal, or I wasn't generous, or I didn't give to, maybe I had $5 in my wallet and didn't give to that homeless guy because I had some preconceived bias about why I didn't want to. But that doesn't matter. And so I strive every day to become more and more generous. And the more I do that, whether it's financial generosity or just with knowledge, sharing stuff like this with folks, the more it just comes back in droves. It's just, it's undeniable how it just overflows back to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. It's the law of reciprocity. It's reaping and sowing. Like we we just keep going and going on all these great principles, biblical principles. But it reminds me of a time I was, years ago, in sales, and I was not just good at the sales role. I was the guy, but like the gap between 1 and 2 was like very, very far. And in that world, usually what winning meant is that you were stealing accounts, backstabbing, and I just really made it a mission to not only not be that, but be the opposite of that, like you. And, if we had an account dispute, I said, nope, it's not mine, it's yours. And they're like, well, and my response that I got often to that was, well, maybe this is yours. I'm like, no, it's yours. Like clear as day, yours. And then on top of that, adding coaching, like spending my time where I could have been making more deals, coaching other people. And what I found in that same example is what you just gave to the listeners is by giving back or by sowing seed, I changed the narrative of what it meant to be a winner or to be the top producer. And it wasn't because I took advantage of other people. It's because I was the guy helping everybody. Like literally, it was like, I didn't want anybody to have a negative thing ever, You can't point at me and say I didn't help you or that I stole an account or nothing. Like clean slate. And so I'm hearing the same, you called it integrity or ethics, I mean. And that's true. Can be done. You can be truthful. I remember being on the calls like, this is exactly how the program works, like being super truthful. And people are like, you give them all the details. Aren't you afraid like it scares them away not to get the deal? I'm like, I get the deal. Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Exactly. I think a lot of people are just afraid, right? So everything I heard that Jason just gave to you guys is he's holding things open-handedly. And you hold things open-handedly because you think of an abundance. Or from him, it comes from a place of knowing who he is, who his creator is, because there's an abundance. There's way more houses out there, even in your specific market, than you'll even be able to do yourself. So why fret?
Yep. Absolutely.
Give us a little end cap on that. Like someone's like, oh my gosh, this is so good, but like, how do I implement this? What would you say to that guy listening right now?
Implement what specifically?
This ethics, open-handedness, mindset of abundance, like operating like we're talking about operating.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And I can say when I first started flipping houses, when I first got into it, I didn't have that abundance mindset because of my own ignorance of what was possible, because all I had seen is everybody fighting for deals and the competition, and everybody still to this day complaining about not being able to find any deals. And, I've seen people go behind somebody's back to a seller after the other person already had it under contract and try to snake deals from people. And, you know, especially in a town like this, you can't stay in business long with a reputation like that. But, I've learned over time that, like you said, there is an abundance of opportunity, which is why it's so once you experience that or realize that or somebody teaches you that, you don't have to worry about being competitive or uptight or holding in all your secrets. Like, there is very, very little that I will not share with other people in this space, even in my own market. There's very, very little that I will not share with them or help them out with, because I don't see it as competition, because I see it as there's plenty to go around
Yeah.
for all of us. So I would just say, if you're starting out, you're newer, you haven't experienced a lot of deal flow in whatever your business is yet, just know that it is there and there is an abundance, even if you haven't seen it yet, and try to develop that abundance mindset before you've experienced it, and it will help you grow a lot sooner than I've started growing.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I want to transition here because you opened up the show by saying that your story has come full circle for you recently, and you mentioned that you got started in real estate by listening first to Deeper Pockets, and you were just on Deeper Pockets last month. So A, how was that? And then B, like you're saying, like it's a full circle. Like you started that way, and now you got to be on the show. Like, bro, tell us about it.
Yeah, man, it was such an honor. So it's bigger pockets, by the way, not
Oh,
deeper pockets.
yeah,
But
yeah. Thank you.
I
For whatever reason, I keep
I
saying that.
still make the same mistake myself. But
Hey, we need
no,
deeper
so
pockets. That's why it's I'm manifesting it. Okay.
exactly, that's right. So
That's
bigger
funny.
pockets is the largest real estate
That's right.
podcast in the world, I believe, and
Yeah.
they're often ranked like within the top 5 of all business podcasts in the country. And Um, it when I was under contract to buy that first rental property that was that bad deal, is whenever I was introduced to somebody at a friend's wedding that had flipped about 8 or 10 houses, and I told him I was buying that rental, and he was real excited for me, and he's like, "Oh, that's great, you're getting into it. You should check out the Bigger Pockets podcast." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I did, and that one little introduction to that podcast from that guy, who I don't even remember his name anymore. I have no idea who he is now, changed the trajectory of my entire family's lineages for
Yeah.
forever. And, so I started listening to that, and that's what introduced me to things like, hard money lenders and
Yeah.
private lenders. And I'm like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I have no money, but you mean to tell me if I just find a good enough deal, somebody will fund 100% of the purchase and the rehab, and then I can just get it done and then sell it, and I get to keep all the profit?
Yeah.
And that clicked with me, and then I just started doing it. And so then to have the honor to actually get on that podcast and share my story and share a story about we did a deal deep dive on a particular deal that I got to mention to that I know is the just grade A bigger pockets type story that was exactly like what inspired me when I was listening.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And since then, to get the feedback from people that have been reaching out or commenting on the different platforms and stuff, and to hear some of the stuff about how much people loved it or were inspired by it and things like that, it's just been really cool. It was such an honor.
Yeah. All I can think is king mode. Just I mean, for real, congratulations, man. To do it in such a short
Thank you.
time too. I know that's not always the goal, but I just really think it's super encouraging for anybody even listening to this show, let alone, if they were listening to Bigger Pockets. But yeah, they're listening today going, man, in such a short time, not only did he just grow a great business where he has made amazing money and now changed the trajectory of active to passive income. But for generations, though, is what you're saying. Like, this is big. You in 4 years changed
Right.
everything, and
I'm just getting started.
you're just getting started. But loosely, because we don't
Loosely.
need boxes and we don't need goals.
I Yeah, I like to call it, because people ask me what are my goals on like scaling and all that all the time, and
yeah.
I said, my main goal is fun growth, and I'm still scaling pretty fairly rapidly, but it's still incredibly fun to me.
Yeah.
So as long as that growth stays fun, I'll keep growing.
Yeah, your mindset being so different, it makes me think of Alex Hormozy. I'm not sure if you follow him at all, but he comes into the entrepreneur scene and goes, you know what? All you guys getting up at 4 a.m. and cold plunging and like that doesn't matter. Warren Buffett eats McDonald's and drinks Coke multiple times a week. you know,
Yeah.
sorry, it doesn't. That's not the equation. And I think for some of us that really get fired up by those things, it's part of the equation. But the equation is subjective. It's individual, So
Yep.
I just appreciate you sharing your equation. I got one last question here for you, Jason. I want to know if you had the opportunity, like you said, you're accomplished quite a bit even before 30. But if you could roll back the clock to the younger Jason, you tap him on the shoulder, you whisper in his ear. What do you tell him?
Oh man, that is such a tough question. Out of fear of the butterfly effect, I probably wouldn't tell myself anything because I love my life and who I am now. But
Uh-huh.
if I were telling somebody similar, at a younger age, if I can reframe it that way, um, obviously the discussions of importance of faith and ethics and abundance, but uh, of course, I would have to go back and tell myself or this other younger person that what's possible with real estate investing. And actually, now that I say that, in a way, I kind of did that with my first cousin in Ohio. He's only 20 years old, and he came and spent a week with me and stayed at our house, and he shadowed me for a whole week
Wow.
and learned everything about my business. And I gave him everything, all of my marketing methods, all of it. And he went out there and found his first deal in a week. And then he actually bought it, used private money, flipped it, rehabbed it, and profited over 20 grand on his first flip that fast. And now, only a couple months later, has already flipped his second house and has it listed on the market for sale. And I'll tell you what, man, I was so much more ecstatic and excited for his first deal
Yeah.
than I was for like my last, 20 deals. Just being able to play a small part in somebody's story like that, who prior to that knew nothing about real estate or how to do any of this.
Yeah.
And to the fact that he latched onto it and really loves it and enjoys it too. So we share that mutual passion now. I'm just so stoked to see where he goes with it. So that's interesting. I never really thought about that, but kind of in a way,
You did.
there kind of was a way for me to go backwards and do that, just maybe not for myself.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations to you. But to be able to give that knowledge to him at 20, I was just with some kids yesterday. I was teaching at like a homeschool collective thing and teaching them the cash flow quadrant and saving money to buy real estate or assets, because it can be businesses as well. And then buying stuff, all the stuff that we just got done talking about. And, so at the end, when you have a couple of 11-year-olds and a couple 13-year-olds to be able to kind of regurgitate what they heard. And then basically it was like, I got to make money so I can buy assets so then I can buy stuff. I don't spend my money before I buy the assets. And it's like,
Yeah.
and you ask the parents and you're like, how would life be different for you if you had been taught this at 11,
Right.
and they get to look over at their kids and be like, guys, like, this is real, So super cool to hear about that, about him in Ohio. I think that's just super incredible that not only you could give the knowledge, but now you guys get to run together.
Right.
And at 20, bro, like, if only we had known at 20 the power of real estate. I just so appreciate you. I know you don't have a lick to sell my audience, which I just absolutely love about you. But I do want to give them the opportunity to network with you and connect with you. How can they find you online, or what's the best place for them to check you out?
Yeah, man. If you want to stay up to date on what I'm doing, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name at Jason Velie. You can find me on LinkedIn, although I'm not real active there. Or if you are potentially interested in being a private lender of any sort on any of the flips that I'm doing, or if you want to get on a list of potential equity investors, if I come across a bigger deal that I need equity partners on, always happy to chat. You can go to jvwithjv.com and submit your info, and we'll connect.
I love it. JV with JV. We'll put it all in the show notes for you. I so love your story. Congratulations. You are doing cool things for your family and for generations that don't even exist yet. So I'm proud of you, and I'm happy to know you. Thanks for being here, man. Blessings to your family. Blessings to your teams out there flipping houses this year, and the people that you're teaching, whether it be on podcasts or in person. Just thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Thanks, man. Same to you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.